of Islam, and it was the pointing toward God, the oneness of God, that bearing witness of the oneness of God. When you see the radical Islam, at least, and even Muslims understand that the first pillar of their faith is bearing witness, shahada, to the oneness of God. And so I need to be short with my opening remarks tonight because we have a guest speaker who wants to talk to us about election integrity and what we can do to accomplish it. And so I'm going to be short, but there's some things that need to be said. I was at a funeral service tonight, and again I said last week that sometimes when you go to a funeral you get to see people who knew the loved one that passed, and they bear witness, or they bore witness to that person's existence. This happened to be a very wonderful lady who had gone to be with the Lord, and all of her family were there speaking about what she meant and her testimony on this earth to all the people that came. They bore witness to that. Because of the nature, I'm going to use a little prop. That's water. And I have some oil. Because of the nature of Islam, the very nature of Islam, because of Shahada, because they believe in the oneness of God. And again, I'm going to tell you folks, I don't mind. It's not that I don't care. I wish you were Christians. If you're not, I don't mind. You need to hear this message. Because you need to know what's happening. You need to know why we're having the witless relocation of Muslims, radical Islamics who are coming here being paid by taxpayer dollars and being put in this country, in this state, Grand Rapids, Dearborn, and here's why it needs to be talked about. The nature of this country is Christian. That is what this country was built on. I don't mind that you don't share my faith. I don't mind if you happen to disagree. You're wrong. If you happen to disagree about the Founding Fathers' faith and about who came to this country and what God did for this country, I don't mind if you don't agree with me on that. But here's the thing you have to know is the invaders, such as Genghis Khan, now found a way to traverse that ocean, and they are coming to us. And it is their mission, folks, it is their mission to build a caliphate. The thing that we made a mistake was with this petro bargain dollar I talk about all the time, we put wings on those camels and they have trod across the ocean now. Here's going to be my point, and I'm going to try to make the point at least on Shahada quick. We're relocating this radical Islam into this country for a reason. It would take 3-week seminars for me to, and I do most of the time, our folks know it, talk about how we compromise our principles and our foreign policy because Saudi Arabia will purchase the debt that we continue to make. And if we don't make that compromise, they stop purchasing our debt. Here's our problem. There's a world of Islam out there. Okay? The analogy is, I've got a 3/4 glass full of Islam. And there's a very influential population of Christianity in the world. The problem, you probably already know what my analogy is going to be. When you mix the two, Christianity always rises, but they do not mix. You can stir that as much as you want to stir it, and they will not mix. As long as I've got a religion, a faith, who wants to call my Savior a liar, I am not blending. Jesus said, let not your heart be troubled. If you believe in God. Now this is not church. I'm going to quote this verse because it's relevant. And it's relevant to why it's wrong to authorize our governor, our president, and even our cities to accept the relocation, the witless, as I put it in our message broadcast, the witless, there's no wit to it at all, relocation of Islam into our Christian communities. It's not going to blend. Jesus said, let not your heart be troubled. If you believe in God, believe also in me. I go to prepare, in my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go, I return again unto you and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there you may be also. And whither I go, ye know, and the way ye know. And then Thomas, one of his disciples, said, you know, we don't know where you're going, and how can we know the way? And this is why that verse is important compared to what Islam says. Jesus then told the world, I am the way. When Thomas says, how can we know the way? Jesus said, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the light. And here's the important part, no man cometh to the Father but by me. And Islam, radical Islam, because I believe that, they will put a sword in my head. And last week, you bore witness, we did it with video, what Shahada means when they bear witness to the oneness of God, that Jesus is a liar, that he is not God, he was created by God, is what they believe, that the Trinity is a farce, that's what they believe. Folks, that doesn't blend. That doesn't mix well. And guess who always comes out on top? Every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess that Jesus is Lord. That is the prophecy of Jesus Christ, and it will be that way. But here's the problem. Until that happens, we're going to have governance that we authorize. We're going to bring all kinds of the Johnny Come Marching Home, the John Tomlinsons. We're going to have those folks come home because we're authorizing in silence bad policy to a country that will purchase our debt. Simply because we can't do the right thing with our spending. The Democrats and Republicans, I am so disappointed. I don't really, as I look back in the history of our elections, it didn't matter if it was Bill Clinton or George Bush as far as spending goes. As far as abortion goes, well, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, it matters. But as far as that debt goes, they both spent. And the Republican Party and the Democrat Party they have to have that fix on debt. Debt is the #1 export in this country. And Saudi Arabia is the object, our golden goose, so to speak. And we don't want to kill the golden goose because they purchase our debt. So our policies is always bad toward Saudi Arabia. We will not deal with ISIS. We will not deal with radical Islam, even though it doesn't blend, even though it causes a threat to our very existence, even though that because of the profits they made on that exchange of the dollar for the oil that they sell, they have been able to put wings on their camels, folks. Those camels have found out a way. See, and I make that analogy because Genghis Khan, they built castles and moats and walls to keep those hordes of invaders off. And the kingdoms were protected by that for a while. Every country over there had borders they tried to protect. And the oceans were a great thing that God used to create this country. And he did. God created this country. And he had Christian men and Christian ethics that were instituted in this country in creation. But because we compromised biblical principles and debt spending dollars, and we went over to Saudi Arabia, and they're making money hand over fist, we put wings on those camels, and they are a threat to us now. Radical Islam is coming here. When I say put wings on the camels, our governor did it. Our governor allowed ISNA, the Islamic Association of North America, he welcomed them into this state. They are unindicted co-conspirators, $12 million. I'm not going to forget it. The Republican Party would want me to forget this. They would not hold him accountable. And he did it because of money. Maybe the state needs money. Maybe there's a way by which this relocation of radical Islam through this program means something to the bottom line in the state. Problem is, it doesn't mix. Problem is, there's going to be a time when there's a clash. There's going to be a time when they want to put a sword to my grandchildren or my children's neck. They're going to have to go through mine first. And if they get that done, I hope there will be many people backing me up. I hope there will be a resistance that's going to tell them, a testimony or a witness, that my God is not your God. I believe in Jesus Christ, the Savior of the world. You do not. As long as you, in your faith, want to neutralize my faith, we cannot live together. I'm okay with you being here But if you're trying to make a caliphate, if you're trying to say our government has to observe Sharia law, then it's not okay. And the craziness of the relocation is something that when we get done here, you will go out, investigate, and talk about it. And it will be something that has been worthwhile for me to present. The other craziness is, the other witlessness is that our government will fund an agency that will kill babies. And I've got a little problem with this because of the reaction that just because now they're willing to sell the baby parts, that all of America is like, oh no, really, that can't be. But you know what? All of America should be saying, oh no, that can't be, they killed the baby. That's what we should be saying, but we're all offended now. Some of the middle-of-the-roaders on abortion are offended because the audacity to kill a baby in such a... Oh, by the way, the ultrasound has been a great gift to the pro-life movement. And I'm going to tell you why. Because what that did in the selling of body parts from those babies, they brought the ultrasound into the procedure. And why did they do that? The reason they did it was so that when they could surgically go in and kill the baby, and they could watch carefully what they did without hurting the heart, without hurting the kidney, without hurting the organs. The reason it was a gift is because one of the presidents of the association down in Texas took an opportunity. She believed that she should, I forget her name, God bless her, she's turned to a pro-life advocate. But she watched that ultrasound. And as she watched that ultrasound, as they went in to perform that abortion, she watched that baby trying to get away from the pain of that procedure. And she could not handle that. And by the way, late-term abortion, the only reason that they want to let a late-term abortion happen, I hate abortion at any stage, but it can be taken care of the first couple of months, couldn't it? The first 2 weeks, couldn't it? I mean, I believe that's murder even then. But here's the horrific thing about what we have allowed in our silence, our Christians across this whole country, because we will let the commerce of a particular party override our conscience. We sear our conscience on the altar of commerce. We will allow this Democrat Party, I'm sorry if it offends you, support Planned Parenthood. Sometimes the Republicans do too, but policy of the Democrat Party supports it. The late-term abortions, the reason it offends them is because the late-term abortions, you get a better developed heart, you get a better developed liver. God help us. Why does God continue to have grace and mercy on a country that will be Hitler-esque in the killing of its young? There's no doubt in my mind what my God believes in the abortion procedure. It's in the news, so I'm going to talk about it. And I am going to try to keep it short because I want to reserve some time for this fellow. He's come here, and he's very interesting. But we're selling the parts. Why is it that we are so offended at the selling of the baby parts rather than the killing of the baby? This offense that we have taken should have been long gained, should have been long given, long time ago. But we didn't rally. Most pro-life Christians are talking about, we'll go to a rally in the street corners. Okay, I've vented on that. I did my little analogy. Islam Christianity doesn't mix. The last thing quickly that's in the news is the plane parts that they discovered in Indian Ocean. The reason it's important is we've been talking about this for a long time. We meet every Friday night, so we get to talk about a lot of stuff.
That's plane part.
Plane part. It's from a 777. There is no way, a Boeing 777, there's no way that's not the 370 flight. But the thing that's so very disturbing, folks, And we won't talk about it all tonight, but I'm going to bring it up because I'm going to be talking about it in the future. And I want you to bring people because our government's involved in something. You know, abortion's bad enough, and selling of baby parts that we will not defend the weak and the defenseless. We will not defend them. But there is a thing that happened on that flight that our CIA had to do the thing that they did. And what could bring us to that? See, because on that flight 370 from Malaysia, there was a technology called cloaking that was just developed by a company called Freescale. They had the highest technicians from China, over 20 of them, was helping develop this. In a company down in Texas called Freescale. Cloaking was something that causes a plane not to be seen by radar. Now here's why this is more important than anything you've heard yet, is you can do it with old planes with this new technology. You can take an old plane and cause all... Remember what I said, the military-industrial complex knows that there is no money in peace? They will keep making the answer to a problem and then create another one so they can make the answer. This, appreciate that. I don't get that much. You come back next week. No, but this is a problem here. Because we also in this country make jobs, take care of our families with the military-industrial complex. We have them here in Ann Arbor. You know, you want the best complex that surrounds our military. We want that. But here with this Freescale thing, I'm going to hold myself to another 5 minutes on this issue, and then I'm going to introduce our guest.
Self-discipline, wow.
I'm going to try. I never have much of it. But I want to do honor by your being our guest speaker. But I always have some opening remarks, and this is very important, folks. I'm going to get through this so that you have the outline of what happened. This technology was trying to be stolen by China. I'll wait till those folks. They need to leave. Sometimes they have to get out a little early, and that's okay. Glad you guys could come and hear me rant and rave for a little bit. Dorothy, sometimes her health issues she has to get home. God bless her. She makes the effort to come out and hear. If you only know what those two have gone through in the last couple of weeks, you would understand. But anyway, Freescale developed a cloaking technology that can take an old plane and make it invisible. Now, when that plane disappeared, Israel was on high alert because you could make a bomb out of any plane flying into Israel. What happened here, folks, was that technology, just in a brief outline here, and we will refine this later, and you will challenge me, because when I put things out there, I want you to research them and challenge them. This technology didn't go on that plane immediately. It was on that plane when that plane disappeared. But it was developed and it was put on a ship in Texas called the Maersk, Alabama. Who's heard of that? Who's heard of the Maersk, Alabama? Captain Phillips? Somalia? The movie? Same ship. That ship housed the technology that could literally bring down the world. They didn't want to put that technology on a plane and fly it to China. See, China wanted that. And had China got that technology, they didn't. CIA interrupted. Had China got that technology, guess who would have gotten it? Iran. Number one supplier of Iran is China. Syria. Russia is a little bit afraid of China. They wanted it first. So the thing about, if that technology had gotten to China, we have a serious issue. Here's what happened. Maersk, Alabama, shipped it across the Atlantic Ocean, down around southern Africa, and to the Seychelles Islands. This is the same place, and you got to remember this. Remember when the two SEALs died? Remember it's been more than a couple of years. Well, right around the time of the disappearance of the plane, there was two Navy SEALs found dead on the Maersk, Alabama. And it was right around Madagascar, Seychelles Island, where they found these parts, where they just found these 777 Boeing parts. That was in the general area. They washed up to Madagascar on that island. These two SEAL team, not six necessarily, but they were SEALs. They were commissioned by the Trident Corporation out of Virginia to run security for the cargo on the Maersk, Alabama. The problem is they breached their board of lading or logging, or whatever that is. They transferred this product from that ship, what they weren't authorized to do. And those two Marines saw it. Now these are highly specialized Marines. They were 44, 42 years old, and they found heroin back in their bunks. They died of a respiratory illness, you know, but they found heroin. So it all died. The story died because these people, these SEALs, took their own lives by overdosing in drugs, but they never did a blood test. Those SEALs were taken out. You're hearing my opinion, folks. You do the investigation. I'm going to make you angry because this cloaking technology was so important that was trying to be stolen by China. They were trying to ship this through and get it on the Malaysian 370 after they crossed the Indian Ocean with another ship, not the Maersk, Alabama, because Maersk, Alabama could not cross the Indian Ocean. It could only go up the African shore. So they were changing the load, folks. And the SEALs saw it. They had to die. So they died. They went ahead and changed that load. They took that load to Malaysia. And the reason you're not getting any facts from the Malaysians or from our government is because they got so much to cover up. Here's what happens. They've got this Flight 370 with all these civilians on board. It's loaded up and it's headed up to China. It's charted to go into China. There's a technology that ends us as a civilized nation on that plane. Do you remember when it made a U-turn and then dropped real fast? The Freescale Corporation, you're getting my opinion here, okay? The Freescale Corporation sent out the Army, sent out the troops. There was a missile headed toward it. They would rather have it blown up because they had the technology still on record. They would rather have those things blown up in that plane. The corporation who held patents on it than to let China get it and reproduce it. So what happens is the CIA took a hardwire control of that plane and they dropped it so that that technology wasn't blown up. They wanted to keep the technology. But in dodging that missile, you'll remember there was a missile in the news, but they didn't cover it much. In dodging that missile, every person on board died. So now you have a plane full of dead people, but you've got an intact technology of cloaking. Now what are they going to do? General Tom McInerney of Fox News continually said that plane flew from Malaysia to Pakistan and offloaded there. But guess what they didn't offload there? Those dead bodies. They didn't offload those dead bodies there. Somebody got the technology that the CIA wanted to be in receipt of. What was those islands that saw the plane flying over and it was en route to Pakistan? They'll come to me, the name of those islands. There's people made police reports. They saw the flight. And it wasn't supposed to be there. It was supposed to be heading toward China, but it wasn't. It flew back over the ocean to Maldives Islands. They made police reports because they saw it. They didn't know what it was, but they heard the flight disappeared and they said, this might be it, made police reports. So, here's what I believe happened. They went and dropped their technical load in Pakistan to some friendlies. Because in Pakistan, you don't have the kind of flight requirements and landing requirements you can get in and get out without. And so then that plane, folks, this is very important. Oh my goodness. I didn't lie on purpose. I'll get done. That plane went to Diego Garcia from Pakistan. It landed in Diego Garcia. And we talk about the carnage of human life when it comes to abortion and babies. But they had to get rid of those bodies. You're not going to find bodies. It's my contention, my belief, those bodies were incinerated at a U.S. Air Force base in Diego Garcia, operated by our national security, CIA. And then they took that plane out to the deepest part of the ocean, what happened to be from Madagascar to, which is the coast of Africa, to the Diego Garcia, which is in the middle of the Indian Ocean. If you was to take Malaysia, you would have Diego Garcia, you would have South Africa. Diego Garcia is literally in the middle of the Indian Ocean. So that plane went up to Pakistan, came back down to Diego Garcia, and they incinerated those bodies. But they had to get rid of that plane. And that plane went out to the deepest part, toward Madagascar, toward Africa, and you're finding the parts now that they deep sixed that plane. It didn't have enough fuel to make it that far, folks. It had enough fuel to make it to Pakistan or China. Tom McInerney said it went to Pakistan. And he said he knew by military, he's a general. And my friend, Paul Vallely, I spoke with 2 days ago about this issue. General Paul Vallely, Fox News. I don't know how many have heard him. How many used to hear Paul Vallely on Fox News? Okay. He doesn't do it anymore because of his health. He was a Fox News contributor. I asked him one question. I said, we're going to talk about this more. And by the way, he's going to Skype with us in a couple of weeks on the relocation of Islam in America. He's on top of it. But I asked him this question, and I want to be careful that you know what I asked him. I want to be careful about what his answer was. I said, does that 777, Boeing 777 that they're finding now have anything to do with 370 and Diego Garcia? Paul Valley is a friend of mine. I'm proud to be able to say it. He said, Dennis, my friend, the answer to that is yes. Now the implications of what he just said, a general who has been in places, if I could just tell you, gotta go. He said yes, that it is related to Diego Garcia. And the only way that plane could have gotten back to Diego Garcia from Pakistan after going through the Maldives, the implications of that are beyond belief, folks. I will want to willingly suspend my disbelief. I will want to do that thing that Hillary says we're guilty of, that I say Democrats are doing across the country. They're willingly suspending their disbelief when it comes to abortion. I would, because I believe what I think I know, I don't want to know. I don't want to think that this country could be that. I don't want to think that but see, it was a much worse thing that would have happened had they not done it. How bad could it have been? We will find that out in the future. Right now, we've got a fellow that wants to try